Thanks, listeners, for joining us. Elko Live today is in advance of a very busy day for the Elko County Commission. They open with a fire board meeting at 1:15, the regular county commission meeting at 1:30. The health board will kind of break into session at 3 o'clock today. And hopefully you can get all the business done in that time. John Karr is our guest in studio. And John, thank you for being here. You're the vice chair of the county commission, correct?
That's the rumor anyway.
Yep. And you ran the meeting last one while he was out. And so this means generally as a rule of practice, you'll elevate again. This will be your second go round if you're chosen as chair in the new year.
That's probably what will happen. Yes, correct.
Yeah, and that's okay. Now, John, we will go over agenda items. Obviously, there's some things here, but I think it is a good thing to note that you are coming to the program, and I think you feel a bit bruised, and it's good to talk about. There was this recent public outcry over the situation with food trucks, and that's all ironed out. That's water under the bridge, but I wanted to make sure you had a chance to talk about the kind of beating that people give each other on social media. It's really kind of silly.
That's the only part to really discuss. The misinformation was through the roof. Nowhere did I want to change an ordinance. Nowhere I was trying to implement ordinance. Nowhere I was trying to any influence on an ordinance.
Because there are no ordinances.
There aren't any, but I had always heard there was. That was all it was. So maybe I should have done my homework before the meeting. Whatever, we can debate that. Anyway, going forward though, the only part that's discouraging is people don't want these positions anymore. Somehow part of this misinformation is everything I get out of it. Well, I'm here to personally tell you I don't get anything out of it. I don't have a fat wallet for it. I don't have some weird land deal. I don't have some behind the scenes I get away with murders type stuff. No, it takes just the meetings alone. Okay, I have a meeting today. It'll take all afternoon. No big deal. 4 or 5 hours, whatever. That's part of the game. But they don't see the hours behind the scenes. There is not one week that I am not up at the county or on the phone or on emails for at least, 10 to 20 hours a week. And that's with no issues. That's normal, whatever's going on, whether the fire district or whatever. Coming down the pike is going to be this. Speaking of misinformation on Facebook and everything else, this ski resort out in the Moyle, that the information out there is already confusing. Everything from the water resources to, well, there's 2 or 3 different land things going on there. They're not all the same. They're not the same owner. So once again, misinformation is ballooning. So I was once again spending hours on that to try to go, hey, it hasn't been brought to our level, but I want to do my homework. Where exactly is it? Which one's which? What water rights do they have? What don't they have? Asking all those questions. So it's discouraging that I'm blamed for asking questions, but it's also people don't understand how much time it really takes. But then the final note, there's no repercussions. You can go on and say anything. And what's the repercussions?
Absolutely. I get it.
There is zero keyboard warrior, court, jail, nothing. Just the keyboard mafia, I guess.
Well, and I guess the best thing that we can do is sort of disempower social media by trying to ignore it as much as possible, John. And I know it seems impossible right now. I'm a broadcaster of more than 30 years in this community. If I'm being honest, it's like 35 years. And so I understand. And I know that social media is damaging. It's harmful. And once those feathers are spread to the wind, you can't get them back. And it's also resulted in physical harm to people. It's damaged their reputations and their businesses. Children are bullied. Sometimes they're pushed to harm themselves. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think probably the answer is, though, that we just try to ignore it the best we can. Go forward with the information, with just the facts. That's what we're doing with this radio show. That's why I appreciate you coming on this radio show. Delmo comes on this radio show. We have other commissioners. When's the last time they come on the radio show? I don't even know that they participate in social media per se, but thank you for coming on the radio show.
And final note, once again, I'll get over it. I'm fine, whatever. There was a couple upset moments. Wasn't handling it too well. And pondered, I did buy pondered quitting, going, this is not worth it. Just accepting my business. I get nothing out of it, whatever. But no, I'll be fine. I'm on another 4 years, whatever. Going forward, now who's going to replace myself? And I'm not irreplaceable. We don't need that out there that he thinks he's no. I am replaceable. But who's going to be replacing me? Who's going to be replacing Rex? Is gone in 4 years. Delmo's gone in 2 years. Nobody runs for these positions. It's not yeah, and city council and all that. We have one race, I guess, in city council that's contested. We have one on school board. One, I mean, so nobody runs for these positions. And Elko complains about who's leading, but
Who's stepping up?
Who's stepping up to lead in the future then?
And for what reason? I mean, that's the big question to ask. And we really do need to start, because I'm on campus at the Great Basin College more now. John, and you and I have seen each other up there as well. I think we really do need to reach back more and start talking to our 20-something-year-olds and saying, this is what leadership is. This is how you can make a difference. Did you think about sitting on an advisory board, right? For the city or the county? I mean, that's where leadership starts. And then you actually learn how government works, because it's also different. In the city of Elko, it's nonpartisan. So I would think that's a much easier entry level. You can sit on the Recreation Advisory Board, Arts and Culture Advisory. There's an Airport Advisory Board that's being revamped right now. Find out how government actually works.
Right.
And then you can start sticking your toe into deeper waters. But throughout the whole process, you can talk to people, get their input. I mean, I'm sure you talked to a lot of people before you ran for office, John, and it's no secret you can be a bit of a hothead, and we know that, right? I mean, we know that.
I'm blunt. I don't try to be abrasive. I come across that way, but then the questioning part is what people are shocked at. But I don't know if it's how I ask questions, or maybe that's where I got to work on. But no, I thought my job was to ask questions, no matter what.
Well, and people, I think the common criticism of anybody that's in business, that's also in public office, is that they're doing it to benefit their business. When what I have seen, and anybody who goes to public meetings or participates, is that you actually get shut out of a lot of business. You know about opportunities, but because there's a conflict of interest, you don't participate.
Right. Yeah, I can't name one thing in my 13 years in the school board and 8 now on commission that suddenly has benefited my businesses like a line item. Like, wow, look at that. That's an extra coin in the bank.
Well, and honestly, too, having that experience, what that does to your home life, because when you have a spouse who, your wife is a teacher, and she's a beloved teacher and well respected, and you're on the school board for a lot. So that makes for sometimes difficult dinner conversations. There are things you cannot talk to your spouse about if you're in elected office, but people get in their minds that it's just the opposite. They think it's some opportunity or advantage. Right.
I guarantee Audrey has suffered because of my political, I don't want to say activism, but my political stature, or whatever you want to call it, whatever the wording is, both when I was on school board and now. There's one time that I really have to bring up. There was a young man that was from a foreign country, almost a village, let's say, and had some disabilities, wasn't able to speak, wasn't able to hear, so did sign language, only did his own version of sign language, because in a village, they don't have real sign language.
They don't have ASL, American Sign Language.
Yeah, they don't have any of that. So here this student moved here, and they weren't even sure his age, but ends up in his classroom. And so they had to learn his sign language to teach him real sign language. And Audrey doesn't know sign language. And the growth that young man went through, it was phenomenal. And I actually wanted her to be promoted, almost the National School Board Conference, as an example of student learning, because of how much growth this young man did. And then, 3/4 of the year, they moved again, which is unfortunate, but just the growth, it was fantastic. And the hours at the house, obviously, were horrible on me. I never saw my wife. She's learning everything and nonstop in a book how to teach this young man. But what a great example of the huge amount that young man grew and the prospect of it. But no, never noticed, never recognized, because I was chairman of the board.
Yeah, and that's, again, I'm sure that's not why she did it, for the recognition. And
oh, heck no, that kid was, I'm serious, I was even a little choked up how well that young man started with the zero. Intelligent young man, so that was a benefit, but no, has none of the, once again, hearing, speech problems, and no sign language.
Profoundly disabled, right,
Correct.
in communication. Well, and that just goes back to teachers and teaching and education and inclusion, John. So I think maybe as a community, we can work on that in the next 4 years and mentor some people. I mean, I see people in the community. I know some younger people, and I do try to encourage them all the time, get involved, start by voting, and then start by serving on these local boards and organizations and learn how government works. And we even had a couple of county commission candidates. Jay Dalton and Brian Gale were on the radio show Friday, and they talked about the frustration of representing a district, right? Because they're out campaigning in the very remote, sprawling parts of Nevada, and their constituents have very different concerns and issues, right, than city residents or Spring Creek residents. And so, but if you didn't have districts, John, then we probably wouldn't have representatives from those ranching areas, correct?
Oh, just the voting population. You'd have people from Spring Creek and Elko. Let's be honest.
Sure.
That's where the population is, so that's why they'd vote. Which is why our founding fathers were brilliant enough to have how we have it now. With you have the House was based on population, you have the Senate based on states, and that's how it is. Brilliant. I wish our state was still like that, but somehow our state Supreme Court years ago decided one vote's one vote, and the House and the Senate in our state, obviously it's not called the House, but anyway, is still based on one vote is one vote. So that's why they're both population based.
Yeah, and we've had so much redistricting, it's hard to tell, literally, what areas are represented anymore. I was so surprised when I went out to the Owyhee groundbreaking, and I did not see our local assemblyman there. I've been doing this, like I said, for a long time. I did not realize that Owyhee had been carved out of our district, and that they're represented by the woman from Sparks, or wherever she's...
Alexis Hansen,
yeah. So there you go. How does that serve the community? Yeah.
That's, again, behind the scenes, some kind of logic was done there, and I don't have a clue what it is, but there you go.
So basically, I guess what you're saying is that in going back to, if you have, some mud to sling, maybe get your facts straight first. And, if you have something to say, and we did see people, I thought that they conducted themselves very well at the public meeting, John, regarding the food truck issue. I thought that the owner of the food truck, I thought she did a great presentation. I thought everything was really civil. I mean, it seems like that whole thing's resolved. But the point being, we don't have any ordinances for food trucks. I wasn't there when you spoke about and said the things that were, taken out of context, I think, to some degree, that you were not.
Well, I'm positive I will never make that little mistake again, thinking of a taco truck, because I'm thinking Pedro, who's been around for years.
Right.
A dear friend of mine, and no way is that derogatory to him, a taco truck. It's just what you called it.
Right.
And I pictured their little thing on their wagon on their
quesadillas.
No, the old timey things. A little wagon thing was old timey thing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
My brain screwed up and called it a taco wagon, so that went downhill.
Well,
either way,
that's
going
right.
forward, whatever.
Always
that's
a good idea.
That's always the past. Whatever. I should have maybe done some homework on our regs, but once again, our Elko County. I just got out of meetings about over by Ruby Marshes. That whole area is having septic and water problems because no regs were followed, and now we're starting to go into septics right by water wells and
Ruby Marshes,
Shantytown.
Oh my goodness! Okay,
just zoning and that.
That's a huge environmental issue.
We run into zoning up in Montello and the water and everything else because it used to be 70s, 80s free for all. So. In my mind, I'm going zoning. That's all I ask, but whatever.
So moving
going forward,
right.
I just hope people understand that these jobs aren't fun.
Right.
There you go.
Okay, so maybe some mentoring and encouraging people get involved with the Elko Area Chamber of Commerce. We have a government affairs committee. There are lots of different ways to get engaged and be informed instead of just sitting back and being that almighty keyboard warrior. So, and a lot of those complaints and comments, John, they don't even come from people in our community. They have no idea. They're trolls. They're trolls. So there you are. I wish I had
that time. Maybe I need to redo my schedule.
So, no, you wouldn't want that kind of time. You would not want to know those people. So let's move on and look at the fire commissioner meeting that starts at 1:15 today and see if anything jumps out. I mean, look at something that you were able to seed so many years ago, making some changes in the fire district, and look at the representation that we have now. Here we have a presentation for portable cell towers, and that will help critical communications during emergencies. That's pretty cool.
Right. And then Chief Peterson was working on Starlink on one of his trucks and all that to see how that would work of communications. And because we still run into a lot of radio tower problems, just how radio waves work. We all know that.
Operability. It's the most mountainous state in the country.
There you go. So we'll see if that would work. And we were both surprised how well Starlink. I think there was about an 8-10 minute one from here to Jarbidge that was blacked out, and that's about it.
Wow.
It was extremely effective. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff that that Chief Peterson's looking at to go, how can we improve communication? How can we be more effective? And he's not just doing what's the cutting edge technology so we can spend more money on new flashy toy.
It's called really dynamic leadership, and it's called having an education and experience, and that's where we need to water those green spots going forward. So also, well, let's see, I was looking on the regular county agenda, and I didn't see a ton on here as far as big, heavy lift issues. There will be a presentation renewing the contract between Get My Ride and Amtrak, and this is where Get My Ride gets $206,000, right? I mean, we are getting money from the federal government to pick up and shuttle people from Amtrak?
Part of it, correct.
Okay.
Because, Operation, what was the moving the tracks 40 years ago?
Project Lifesaver.
There you go, Project Lifesaver. Obviously, that was extremely effective, worked well. It's been a huge improvement. Even when we flooded, 9 years ago, we don't have the floods downtown that you see pictures of in the 70s of, the courthouse and Idaho Street, a foot underwater and all that. Anyway, point being, extremely effective, except for the Amtrak station. That is like this weird afterthought of down there by the river, all alone, getting dumped off. And the Amtrak schedule is so bizarre. They're almost always 6 to 8 hours late. And I can't even imagine being dumped off at 2 a.m, kind of going,
and it's fun to ride the train,
wow.
John. I know. It's real. The train's kind of comfy and cool and take your time. But I hope Amtrak can come back, and then maybe we can, right? I mean, if train service, right. There's more investment in the future. That's something the federal
I want to actually go on it. And the last time I helped, one of my tenants moved, and so I helped her and her husband and boyfriend, whatever it was, get back on the train because their family had passed away back east or whatever. Helped them get on the train. And I was just shocked that, it ended up being 12 hours late because it ended up, something was broke.
Right.
But then it ended up a shift change, so the driver couldn't run the train. So then I had to go to another one, had to drive away from Reno, and there was another 4 hours. I was like, holy cow, really?
You got to have time.
It was nuts. But anyway, point being is, there you go. Get My Ride has got to help fix that little weird thing down underneath the bridge of where they drop people off. There you go.
So Natural Resources, I think Curtis Moore will probably do a presentation on a letter of support for the Recreational Trail Program grant submitted by the Great Basin Institute. It would provide for trail maintenance for the Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest, and boy, we need that, don't we?
Right.
So that's up. Also, the SAMHSA's grant, I think is how you say that, and that is they're known for people with behavioral needs involved in criminal justice, and that is something that I think we've had before, right? So that's on the agenda.
So even though we have 3 or 4 agendas because of the health board, the fire board, there's not a whole lot on there.
Yeah.
We're taking over a truck from the city that had some engine problems, but we were in together buying it to begin with, so not a big deal.
Health board meeting is always interesting, and I encourage people to watch online. I mean, if you're at a desk job and you can pull it up, elkocountynv.net, watch these meetings. Hear the people, talk about local issues. And there's going to be some concerns addressed during the 3:00 meeting of the health board. Someone is concerned about children and others living in RVs on a remote property. And so that's being brought to the health board, the environmental health concern. An update from Dr. Bryce Putnam. Reach Medical Air will give a presentation. The Community Health Center, Nevada Health Centers, Great Basin Health Sciences, Hospital, School District, Vitality, Children's Advocacy Center, the Sheriff's Department. You get all these great updates about what's going on in the world of health in the community, right, John?
I'm not sure quite why the children in the RV is on the health board, but no, it's a topic that's been brought up in 3 or 4 different areas, whether it be the sheriff involved, whether it's zoning involved, and so that was another question I brought up weeks ago, and I think that's part of the reason it's on this one is to find out where exactly it fits under, because there's some interesting encampments. Is that a good way to word that?
That is alternative living. Off the grid. Yeah.
Off the grid, but yet they're close enough to others. They're affecting others. So these bizarre compounds are popping up. They go, well, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. What was really zoned here? What's allowed and what's come a free for all? Yeah,
and when you just described what's going on at the Ruby Marshes, possibly with septic systems leaching into a national waterway.
Well, okay, we're talking about water wells there that are private wells that are too close to septic, and just because of how they've been zoning and dividing properties and whatever. So it's one of those things that we got to look at. Going forward,
it's the people, not the marshes.
Correct.
Thank you, John.
Yes, we're not now on a federal
like,
disturbing, and now we killed all the fish and all the birds are dead. No, zero of that. No,
I'm glad I'm not the only person.
This is just Shantytown itself of going forward. What issues, because it's kind of under our realm as a
right.
It's not even an HOA, I don't think, but just a little.
There's a reason it's Shantytown. It's probably 50 or 70 years old, right? A little encampment out there. Yeah.
Oh, I think the mining's older than that. Back in 100, 150 years ago, but
oh, my
whatever.
Goodness. Okay. Yeah.
They just did a article on that cave that you go way back into.
There's a cave in Shantytown? Man, I am.
Aren't you in the news?
I am not in the news.
I'll send you the article.
All
but anyway,
right,
the point being is,
I know more about Tuscarora than Shantytown.
Articles of, once again, what's going on and how is it going to ever build out, or if it is getting built out, if it can't be built out, but what's there.
Well, and we need zoning, and that's the problem. Elko County's kind of been the wild, wild west for a long time, John, and so it's painful. Some people don't want change. They want to maintain lower taxes. They don't mind their dirt roads. There are a lot of different reasons.
No. That's unfortunate. I'll disagree with you on that one. They don't want their dirt roads. They want to drive out on their property they got a great deal on and then complain about dirt roads. And how come the county's not taking care of it?
Oh, okay. Just the opposite. They want their paved roads on their cheap property. Okay.
And I did not say cheap. The good deal property.
The good deal. Yes. Okay. Inexpensive.
Thank you.
All right. So you mentioned it, and I got to make sure we've got plenty of time. We got to send you downtown to your meeting. You mentioned, so the County Planning Commission meeting is separate from Elko County Commissioners. Sometimes if Planning Commission decisions are appealed, well, not sometimes, but when Planning Commission decisions are appealed, meaning one party or another doesn't agree with the decision made by the Planning Commission, it gets kicked up to the county commissioners. So we kind of want to be careful about the conversation that we might have on this, John, but we do know that the Ruby Mountain rezone to look at that property owned by Peter Christodoulou out of the Bay Area. He's proposed putting a ski resort in there. He's also got a huge tract of land, almost 1,000, maybe it's more than 1,000 acres, at the base of the Rubies for housing. Those two agenda items have been tabled. They're not going to be heard tomorrow night. They're going to be moved to November 21st.
Those are tabled.
All right. There is
by the owner's choice.
Yes, by the property owner's choice. I think he's actually, from what I understood, working on meeting some of the concerns from the community, right? So
that is my understanding as well. I have not talked to the individual, and quite honestly, what we've gone over here is all I've been involved in, other than asking our department what zone is he wanting to change to, and what is he current, and what's allowed. Mm-hmm. What are the current laws? Not what he's doing. What are those zones and what's allowed in those zones? That's all I've researched. But going forward next week, no, I've left a message with that individual or whoever his spokesperson is to try to find out more information, because there's also a Facebook buzz about some post he did. I don't even know when, but it says about the ski resort going all the way to the top. And
John, there are some beautiful videos. I spent some time this weekend there.
Snow Brains or something.
Yeah. Oh, there's that article, right?
Yes.
And it's more of I wouldn't even call that a news article. It's more speculative.
Right,
it's to encourage investors, and it's and again, if that's what that's what you can do. But people just need to know that's not really a news article. That doesn't have all the different aspects. But
that was a good way to point that.
But I have watched some spectacular videos, and in fact, I thought about this because covering the news is I have for all these decades. Elko County spent a considerable amount of time fighting over stuff, and I'm not saying you or anybody on the commission now, but just fighting things. And I think that we kind of missed the point, or maybe it was the point, is that we were being distracted because we have all these amazing ranches and private property. And rather than looking at opportunities for, say, conservation, open space, creating public recreation areas, these ranches are all in private hands. And now they're being sold for these developments. And there's really not much to stop private development, right? I mean, there are zoning. That's what's being used right now as a tool. But even Elko County zoning is pretty lax. It favors property owners.
Correct. And I really don't have an opinion on the moment right now, good or bad.
And I think that's important because this could come to you later.
I'm almost positive it's going to come to us. If it keeps going at all, it will end up coming to us no matter what. Somebody will appeal either way.
Right.
So it will be in front of the commission someday. And once again, I'm flat out publicly announcing this. I don't have, well, first off, let's make it clear. I don't have a restaurant there. I don't have any part of this ownership. There is zero that I have in this. There's no conflict whatsoever. And I also have no opinion whatsoever. Part of me go, hey, I'd love to take Braden up to a ski resort. I don't know if my knees could handle it anymore, but I sure like to take him. And the other part, no, the Rubies, I want to be able to go hike up there and do my thing. Okay, so I don't have an opinion yet. But no, I am trying to meet with that guy or his developer. I don't know how he's set up his corporation yet or who's the spokesperson, whatever. But then I also want our zoning and planning commission, or not a commissioner, but our internal people with us to go, wait a minute, let's think this through. If he does build a resort, what road are they using? How big a road? What kind of traffic are we going to need? What is this?
Just the practical.
What water rights you can use? Whatever. Because I know some other land that Braemar is looking at purchasing and developing is getting confused on all this part as well.
Lamoille Ridge.
And so that's part of the misinformation of what's going on.
And Lamoille Ridge is on the agenda for the Planning Commission meeting tomorrow night. And I didn't go on today, but I've been looking for attachments on that. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of information about other than just the agenda item. So it'll
that
be
one I haven't looked at
see.
all, other than I know it exists.
Right.
That's all I've looked at.
And I think that's what you were referring to, is just that it has been purchased. It was held by someone, by Janice Sestacha was the name. Oh, here it is. So the application that's being considered is Ventures MTG LLC, requesting a change in zoning from open space district to an agricultural residential conservation reserve district. So that's very specific. It's 878 plus acres. And what we understand is that it is no longer owned by Janice Sestacha, but it is the record of survey. That's the name attached to that. And so they are requesting this change in zoning that could allow for quite a subdivision, quite a few more. And it's outside Spring Creek.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's outside the HOA.
Yes. Okay. So interesting. Yeah. So there's a lot of growth, and there are water rights for sale. I mean, that's the other thing. Everything's sort of for sale right now in these places that we have kind of taken for granted, right, as being open space for so long.
That's why I made a comment in a meeting that obviously I'd like part of the lands that are federal back to the state, but be careful what you wish for, because our state is currently controlled by a huge majority of Democrats, and you might not get what you want.
Right. I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. So as I said, we spent a lot of time kind of hyper-focused in Elko County, and it would be nice, kind of circling back to the conversation that we started with, John, to just get some leadership in the community. First of all, I think an education is important, and I'm not talking about being a snob or having a master's degree or a PhD or anything, just having an education, having the ability to discern fact from fiction, having the ability to conduct yourself and regulate your emotions, and to decide things in a transparent, fair, and open way, right? To have healthy community discussions. And if you can do those things, maybe you'd make a good county commissioner.
That's definitely the theory. Everybody obviously thinks they already do that, and I think I try to, but obviously I'm sure not perfect at it. And
well, John, it has stood out, I think, from time to time too, that you do have the ability to discern, and that you do ask questions based on the fact that you do have an education. You have a higher degree of education than most people in Elko County, frankly.
I also have a weird history because of the jobs I've had, because I was in the mining, because I was a stockbroker, because I own my own business, being on the school board, my parents' education. So the influences that have impacted me are kind of unique. So yeah, it's not just having a degree, but it's all of those different facts that have been thrown at me, I guess, or life skills, or whatever you want to call it. And that's, I think, kind of unique. So I hope I have a broader perspective.
Yeah, you have some unique abilities and skills, and we'll just, you can focus on those going forward and not get too stirred up by social media, right? Because most of those people are anonymous and they're just doing it to get at you.
It's still more of also my employees worrying, going, hey, am I going to still have the same tips because, tables are down, or my cook's going to have to cut hours, and it's all that kind of stuff. But no, we're fine.
Sorry about that, John. Yeah. Hopefully we can learn to be better to each other and be kind and be good neighbors going forward. And I know there's a few things I've not gotten over since COVID, because there was quite a bit of meanness on social media, and but again, we rise because there are more good people in the world, I have to say, than there are bad, and especially in our community. So
yeah, but we got to be careful of that. Things like that superintendent, the last one, I don't think she was ever given a fair shot, whether she'd been good or bad. I liked her personally.
That was a terrible
but I don't know if she'd been a strong leader or not. But to have some lunatic show up at her house, say, I will be at your meeting out her front door, and she's alone. I don't know if she's a widow or single or married. I don't know what the case. She just had to be home alone. And some rather large, intimidating guy saying that.
Mm-hmm, right.
That would scare your average person. They don't deserve that.
Well, hopefully we're beyond those days. Hopefully, John.
We're not. This will happen again.
Well,
that kind of thing, and there's no repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that bothers me. If she had also old school mafia and pay some guy to go beat that guy up, she'd be the one in jail, not the guy that intimidated her. I don't know. It was wild. So I don't know.
All right. Well, let's get to know our neighbors, and then if somebody comes to beat on your door, whether you're home alone or not, the neighbors will also come out and say, hey, you leave that person alone, right?
Well, we can laugh. Look, Kamala said she carries a gun at home.
Kamala.
Whatever. Okay,
you have to say Kamala. We say people's names correctly. I don't want to say that
it's not derogatory. I'm not trying to laugh about Kamala, whatever.
But that's her actual name is Kamala.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
I was not trying to be, you're right. Okay. I'm not trying to be derogatory towards the woman.
Okay.
Kamala.
Right. Thank you. And I think we can all move forward now and let you go to your meeting downtown. Should we do that?
All right, there we go.
John, thank you so much. Don Karr is County Commissioner.
My English lesson for today.
And I've only had to do that twice on this radio show this election season, and you're the second time. So thank you, John Karr, County Commissioner, Vice Chair of the County Governing Board. The meeting starts at 1:15 with the fire commissioners, and then followed up by the regular meeting at 1:30, Health Board meeting at 3 o'clock. And all of them are public. You can follow along online, elkocounty.nv.net. Thank you, listeners, for joining us.